There is a watch that costs less than dinner for two, was made by a calculator company, and ended up on the wrist of the same people who own timepieces priced higher than most houses. It is in many ways less surprising than it sounds. It outsold its $35,000 lookalike, becoming the most talked about watch of the entire pandemic. It was outsold, and for reasons that make no sense on paper. It was scalped for $360. People queued for it like they queue for sneakers. Serious collectors wore it, and when handed the choice between this watch and an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, they kept reaching for the Casio. It has never been officially compared to the watch it allegedly copies. It has never been sued. It has never been acknowledged by the company that, by every conventional rule of luxury, should have been very upset about it. And you can buy one at a mall right now for $99. This is the Casio G-Shock GA-2100. They call it the Casioak. What Audemars Piguet has refused to say about it for the past 6 years is the strangest part of this story. My name is Lucas, and let's take a look at the strangest watch story of this century. To understand how a $99 plastic watch ended up at the center of the most expensive segment of the watch industry, you first have to understand what the watch industry was doing for the 50 years before. In 1972, an industry on the edge of collapse, the quartz crisis was about to gut Swiss watchmaking, and the industry bet everything on a single watch designed by a 30-something Italian-Swiss prodigy named Gerald Genta. The story goes that the night before the 1971 Basel Fair, the managing director of Audemars Piguet called Genta at 4 in the afternoon. The brief was due the next morning. Genta sketched the Royal Oak in one night. Octagonal bezel, 8 visible hexagonal screws, integrated bracelet, stainless steel. For a luxury watch in 1972, this was almost heretical. It launched at 3,300 Swiss francs, more than 10 times the price of a Rolex Submariner. Over the next 50 years, this design became the entire blueprint for the luxury sports watch, copied, riffed on, stretched into Patek's Nautilus, and gated behind years-long waitlists that made even billionaires beg. Casio was, at that point, a calculator company. They did not release a watch until 1974, and when their G-Shock line finally arrived in 1983, built by an engineer named Kikuo Ibe, with the single goal of making a watch that would not break, the original DW5000C had an octagonal bezel of its own. Pure coincidence in time, completely different in intention. G-Shocks were tools. Construction site tools, military tools, skater tools. They were aggressively ugly on purpose because elegance was a tax G-Shock did not pay. For 36 years, no G-Shock ever even attempted to look like something a watch enthusiast would wear with a suit. Then, in August 2019, the GA-2100 hit the internet, and someone noticed something Casio had not exactly drawn attention to. Once they did, the company that should have had a problem with it stayed conspicuously silent. The GA-2100 launched in Japan in August 2019 with a list price of 13,500 yen, about $99 US, and almost no marketing budget. 3 colorways: Module 5611, 48.5 millimeters wide, 11.8 millimeters thick, the thinnest G-Shock case ever produced, 51 grams on the wrist, 2 SR726W batteries, good for 3 years, 200 meters of water resistance, a perpetual calendar accurate through the year 2099, which means the watch on your wrist will outlive the original Royal Oak's entire patent term twice over. Casio's official line on the design was, and still is, that the GA-2100 is a tribute to their own 1983 DW5000C, which is technically true. The first G-Shock did have an octagonal bezel, but the moment the GA-2100 photos started circulating on Reddit and Instagram, the watch community noticed something Casio had carefully not said. And within weeks, the watch had a nickname Casio never gave it, the Casioak. It started from a forum post. That is how British GQ ended up calling it Cool AF months later, how Vogue featured it, and how Hodinkee, the most prestigious watch publication in the world, the one that profiles million-dollar Pateks, ran serious coverage of a $99 plastic Casio. Then in 2020, with the world locked indoors and watch enthusiasts trapped on Instagram, the GA-2100 sold out globally, not regionally. Global. Casio could not produce them fast enough. Secondary market prices hit $360. People were queuing for $99 plastic watches the way people queue for Yeezys or the Rolex Daytona. By 2021, the people scalping these watches and flipping them on eBay were not kids who could not afford a Royal Oak. They were collectors who already had one, the watch this thing supposedly copied. What a P thought about it, we still do not know. What they did about it, nothing. Before I tell you the part of this story that genuinely does not make sense to me, you have to understand something about Audemars Piguet. Audemars Piguet is one of the most aggressively protected brands in luxury watchmaking. They have, at various points, pursued legal action against companies that produced watches resembling the Royal Oak, including homage brands, knockoffs, and design pirates. The Royal Oak silhouette is one of the most legally fortified shapes in the industry. And for 6 years, while a watch with an unmistakable octagonal bezel and an integrated style bracelet has sold tens of millions of units at the most accessible price in watchmaking, Audemars Piguet has said nothing. No lawsuit, no public statement, no official comment. The most talked about homage of the most legally defended design in modern watchmaking. And the brand that owns that design has pretended on the record that it does not exist. There has never been a press release, never a cease and desist made public, never an interview where any AP executive has said the name Casioak. Genta himself died in 2011. He never saw it. I looked for the obvious lawsuit. There isn't one. And the reason there isn't one is the part of the story that goes deeper than the watch. The people who started wearing the Casioak, more than they wore their Royal Oaks, were not enthusiasts looking for a knockoff. They were collectors who could buy any watch on Earth, and they chose over and over to wear the $99 one. Watch dealers in London, New York, and Tokyo reported the same pattern. $1,000,000 collections in the safe. A plastic Casio on the wrist for the actual day. Mod kits exploded. $50 to convert the Casio's resin case into something that, from across a room, looks like a $35,000 Audemars Piguet. What the Casioak proved is not that Casio designed a clever watch. It is that for an enormous number of people who could afford anything, the design was the whole luxury. The craft was the markup. So what does a $99 Casio actually tell us? It tells us that luxury, at the top of the watch market, was never really about the movement or the finishing or the centuries of Swiss craftsmanship etched into the case back. Those things matter. They are real. They are hard. They are worth something. But the Casioak proved they were never the whole thing. For an enormous slice of buyers, the design was the entire experience, and everything else was the price the industry agreed to charge for it. The hierarchy holds only as long as everyone agrees to keep it holding. The moment someone offers the silhouette without the surcharge, the spell breaks. A $99 plastic watch became an icon by quietly proving that the most expensive part of a Royal Oak was never the watch. It was the story we agreed to pay for. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever owned a Casio? Which one? And was it your first watch?